now, my brain dump. Well, it's apparently Victory Day in Russia, and Vladimir Putin's been flexing his supposed military muscle in a North Korea-style parade that would make even Kim Jong-un look bashful. But the only victory that Putin's marking this year is becoming the world's biggest loser. He lost the first major battle in Ukraine and the capital, Kyiv. He lost as many as 25,000 troops and 38 colonels on the battlefield. He's lost the global safe havens for the blood-soaked oil billions of him and his oligarch cronies. He's also turned Russia into the most hated country on earth. So for him to stand there celebrating victory is a disingenuous farce. But the most savage irony of Putin's Victory Day is it in fact marks Russia's triumph over Nazi Germany. The Soviet Union lost more men to fighting fascism in World War II than any other country. 27 million Soviets died for the cause. They fought so their grandchildren could live in peace. But instead, Putin's chosen war. And who are the Nazis today? Putin's genocidal rampage has left swathes of Ukraine, a once flourishing European sovereign democracy, looking more like London in the Blitz. Smoke choking the skylines, families huddling for refuge in metro stations, homes blasted into charred remains. And like Hitler, Putin's a delusional dictator who thinks it's fine to invade neighbouring countries, murder journalists, rule by spreading lies and propaganda. He even has his own sick swastika. He's not saving Ukrainians from the new Nazis, as he so outrageously claims. Putin is the 21st century Hitler, and his bloodthirsty forces are the real new Nazis. He's right to say, though, that Ukraine needs denazifying. It does, from him. Well, for all their spin and bluster, local elections have left both of Britain's big party leaders with a big black eye and a bloody nose, and frankly, they deserve it. Leadership in UK politics is in a very sorry state. Boris Johnson's Tories lost 487 seats and 12 councils, but despite that disastrous shellacking, party insiders say Boris is buoyant and remains an asset. Really? That's the kind of thing that Putin's few remaining colonels are probably saying about their beleaguered boss. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sir Keir Starmer, who should have been celebrating winning 108 new seats for his Labour Party, is instead being tied up in an increasingly tight knot of his own making over breaking lockdown rules after months of taking the moral high ground against Boris Johnson for his illicit Downing Street parties. Today, Starmer dramatically upped the ante by announcing that he will resign if police find him over the apparently illicit beer and curry soiree that he shared with his campaign staff. It's an amazingly high-stakes gamble, and of course would put Johnson under huge pressure to do the same if he does have to quit. But I suspect hypocrisy and lying might finish them both off, whatever happens. Boris broke the rules he set for the rest of us and then repeatedly lied about it. Starmer said that Boris must resign when police investigated. Now the same thing's happened to him, but he hasn't resigned. He just committed to resigning if he gets fined. And as the two of them squabble over this kind of nonsense and fight for their political lives, the United Kingdom is now facing the very real prospect of being slowly but surely broken up. In a shock development in Northern Ireland, Nationalist Party Sinn Féin, which wants a united Ireland, won the biggest number of seats for the first time. And I fear that may be the catalyst for the slow breakdown of the entire United Kingdom, coming at the time when the Scottish National Party in Scotland is also growing in strength. The seeds in Ireland were sown when Britain signed a Brexit deal that built a trade barrier down the Irish Sea and marked off Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK, having repeatedly assured us that wouldn't happen and would be totally unacceptable. It was a fudge then and a betrayal, and it was never going to stick. And nationalists have now moved to exploit that vacuum. If the UK is going to stay together, and I hope it does, it needs strong leaders in Westminster who earn the public's trust. Instead, we can't trust the current crop to run a whelk stool. If you asked me to name one of the most enduring loves of my life, other than Arsenal Football Club, it would be the humble London black cat. That purring, sleek, glossy emblem of Britain. Always there when you need it. Safe, secure, symbolic, sexy. As iconic to the capital city as red buses, bowler hats and polo. But it's in a different league to those cheap, inferior imposters like Uber. Well, of course, if the busybodies get their way, and they're trying now, this might be the end of the road for the black cabs as we know it. Now, I happen to think the black cabs are not just far superior to their app brothers, they're in a different class. There's no flapping around on the street trying to find your driver for half an hour before he cancels on you. No secret, spiteful little rating system. Who wants to be rated by a cab driver? No following the sat-nav down blind alleys. No, black cabs show up. You tell the cabbie where you want to go, and he or she will take you there on the fastest route possible. And we don't need any fancy map app to do it. The reason they're able to do it so efficiently is because of the knowledge. Now, for the uninitiated, the knowledge is the staggeringly difficult examination that all London black cab drivers have to pass to qualify. It dates back 170 years, it takes about 4 years to complete, and it requires personal knowledge of 25,000 roads and 20,000 landmarks. Black cab drivers don't need satellites because they've got the knowledge. And in exchange for that knowledge, they get special privileges, like being able to use bus lanes and pick customers up at the roadside. They're not just national treasures, they're global treasures. Without any doubt, the finest and best qualified cab drivers on the entire planet. But now the busybodies I mentioned earlier at an influential think tank say the knowledge and all of those perks should be scrapped. They say the revolution in consumer choice means that app-based services should get all the same entitlements to bring taxis into the modern age without any need for the knowledge. This is nonsense. Shameful nonsense. It must be thwarted. The knowledge is what makes our cab drivers the best in the world. Black cab drivers should be deemed an official endangered species and protected accordingly. The campaign to save the black cab starts here. What do black cab drivers actually do? They drive cabs, right? Just as a baker bakes and a funeral director directs funerals. So what about an actor? I mean, they act, right? I mean, it's literally that simple. Only in these woke-ravaged days, it's obviously not allowed to be that simple. The outgoing boss of the Royal Shakespeare Company says only disabled people should be able to play Richard III because the king was disabled. This isn't the first time we've heard this virtue signalling claptrap. Bryan Cranston was flamed for playing a wheelchair-bound guy in The Upside. Eddie Redmayne got hammered for playing disabled astro genius Stephen Hawking, and then pressured into a grovelling apology when he played a trans character in The Danish Girl. Scarlett Johansson was slammed for starring in a movie based on a Japanese manga comic because she's not Japanese, which is not a cartoon either. And the same people enraged by these supposedly inauthentic portrayals have no problem seeing black actors playing leading roles in period dramas, even if that is historically wrong. And they shouldn't have a problem with it, because they're actors who are acting. That's the whole point of acting. If the wokies get their way, the next person to play Hitler in a movie will have to be a genocidal Nazi. And that means only Vladimir Putin might qualify. And last time I checked, as his performance as a global peacemaker shows, his thespian skills leave a lot to be desired. But I'm sure there's one thing we can all agree on, and it's this. This is not acting.
So I'm here to rate you on your recent visit to Aotearoa, New Zealand in 2018.
Okay.
You'll be moderately happy to know that you scored 3 stars.
3 stars? Mm-hmm. Out of what?
100.
100?
No, out of 5.
Okay, very funny.
Yeah, that's privacy-shy Prince Harry on TV again, making his acting debut in a ridiculous New Zealand advert for his eco-travel non-profit. Harry clearly is not just a terrible actor, he's also a terrible hypocrite, a guy who constantly preaches about the environment but uses private jets like I use black cabs. This is like Adele lecturing us about how not to be a diva.